Thank you. It's day 2 of the trial for a man accused of killing his cellmate last year at Green Bay Correctional Institution.
The 25-year-old is charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Jackson Vogel is believed to have attacked and tied up his cellmate, Micah Laureano, leading to his death. Prosecutors allege Vogel targeted Laureano because of his race and sexual preference.
Emily Byer joining us this morning with the latest with the opening statements and what's expected for the rest of the trial today. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Emerson and Tammy. In opening statements, the defense says they're not arguing whether Vogel killed Laureano. They're fighting for that lesser charge of second-degree intentional homicide and against the hate crime enhancer. Micah Laureano's mother briefly took the stand, followed by several investigators. Some of the responding officers stated when they first encountered Vogel after the incident, he appeared to be smiling while saying he had killed Laureano. The corrections officer who first discovered the scene says he noticed a piece of paper was covering the window of Vogel and Laureano's cell door during a routine cell count. The timestamp on that body cam video is 8:46 p.m. on August 27th. The officer asked Vogel to remove the paper, which is then revealed the attack on Laureano.
When you asked Mr. Vogel to put his hands out, did he comply?
Initially, no.
And I guess what was he doing?
He just kept saying, he told me once that he was already dead. He said that it didn't matter, that he was already dead.
And did you know who he was referring to?
Laureano.
And now today, witnesses will continue to take the stand. The trial is expected to take a few more days, possibly going to the jury on Thursday. We'll send it back to you.